Alright boys, you like it, you love it, you want to see it. It is the Christmas 2019 event guide. I'm going to be telling you guys everything you need to know about this event. If you guys want to know specifically about lotto farming, I made a whole separate video just all about that. If you want to figure out like what the nodes are like, what teams you should bring, there is a whole separate video dedicated to just the lottery farming because that's pretty much the main thing this event brings. Now, I think this event is pretty sick. Like, I think the challenge quest is pretty easy. Like, it's just a free lore, basically, in my opinion. I think some of like the new free-to-play servant you get, the Nightingale, is really, really good. I think the banner is pretty solid. I think the free-to-play CE, always spicy as always, giving a free 50% when it's max limit broken. I think it's a pretty solid event. It's just, it's a lotto event, so nobody cares about any of that stuff, right? It's just like Nightingale, who cares? New CE, that's pretty good, who cares? Command code, who cares? The free lore, who cares? It's all about that lotto, baby, which we will talk about in today's video just a little bit. I'll briefly touch about the lotto rewards, but all the lotto farming, that is a separate video because it deserves its own part because that's just how important it is for this event. But before we begin, if you have not already, what are you doing? Leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. Your boy's on that daily FGO content grind, meaning you guys get an FGO video every single day, and all I want in return is just a little bit of support back from you guys. But if you want to go that extra mile in supporting the channel, well, there's a few things you can do. For one, your boy is affiliated right now with LD Emulator and Loot Cakes, which are pretty good services that match up with the whole FGO thing we have going on here, because LD Emulator is a very, very solid emulator that actually allows you to set up macros, which if you don't know what a macro is, it basically is where the game will like auto farm for you, basically like set up where you want the mouse to click. So like I would click here, here, here. I would set that up. The emulator would remember that. And so you can kind of set up a good macro. It'll auto farm for you, as long as it's not too complicated, because then you're gonna need to put a lot of work in to set up that macro, but technically you could do it. And because FGO is just an incredibly based game, they don't ban you for being on emulators. This is not Dokkan Battle. This is not Dragon Ball Legends, where they will come to your house and kick you in the nuts for using the game on an emulator. FGO doesn't care. If you're playing the game, they don't care. So I think it's a very good partnership with the channel. And Loot Cakes, basically, whenever you spend money on the game of FGO, you also get some points back, and you can use those points to get gift cards to get even more quartz in FGO, right? And the good thing is that even if you're a free-to-play player, you can join my alliance, and when someone else spends money in the game, you still get a little bit of those points back as well. So basically, like, it's more of like a communal thing, and I really like it. And I know some people are like a little worried. They're like, well, that sounds too good to be true. Basically, how they make their bag, how they make their money is that they sell the data of like what games are popping off to the developers. So they're like, hey, you guys put out this Nightingale event, and then everybody spent money, but then you guys put out Poo Poo Stinky McGee and nobody was spending money. And so they give that back to DW, and DW is like, hey, this is really good information. More big booby servants is what the people want, right? Like no more ugly dudes, only big booby servants, right? So it gives them like that data back. So those are two ways you can support the channel. If you want more content, I stream every weekday on Twitch, down in the description down below. And you can click that join button to get channel member exclusive videos. But enough shilling. Let's talk about the event guide, all right? Like, no more shilling, bro. No more YouTube intro. Let's just talk about what this event is bringing. Now, again, I already kind of touched upon the fact that the lottery is the main draw for this event, but everything else here is like, these are like really good CEs and like command code stuff that you can get from the event. Like, if you're a free-to-play player, even a pay-to-play player, you're eating, because this is an insanely good CE, right? Like, this never gets talked about. But you're starting with 50% gauge, which is obviously always really good. But it is like a baby magical girl of Sapphire, but for quick servants in particular, right? Because it's giving them the little bit of a quick buff, which is helping out with their quick performance by giving them a little bit of NP gain with their quick cards. But then it's just giving them extra raw NP generation rate. And even though they're only 10%, that might make the difference in your quick servant actually being able to farm more efficiently now. And this is like a really, really good free CE. It's like one of those like free CEs that you'll probably see a lot of people run, because it's just really good to slap on a quick servant, because it's just giving them all the generic good stuff that they really want, especially this, because quick servants if you can get a quick servant that has an NP gen buff on them, they're probably crazy. I mean, like, case in point, someone like Edmund Dantes or Parvati, they're absolutely nuts, and it's because they got mad NP gen, right? Like, they can do this stuff like crazy. So the fact that, like, we just get the CE for free, and this is not like a gacha CE, is absolutely nuts, and this is going to be a boon for a lot of people's boxes. Now, moving on to the command codes, thankfully, you don't have to do anything like crazy to get any of these. These are just available in the shop. So like, if you can be bothered to stop farming the lotto for 2 seconds and go to like the actual bronze, silver, and gold currency, you can pick these up. Unfortunately, like, I don't know like how useful all of these are really going to be for most people, because like this as the 5-star command code is okay. Like 1000 HP every time you attack is kind of like iffy. This really doesn't matter because it's probably going to be 3 turns before you see that card again, just based on like how the card shuffling in FGO works. If you guys don't know, essentially between all 3 of your servants you have 15 cards, like, you know, your buster, arts, and quick cards, right? Because each servant has 5 cards. You have 3 servants, you have 15 cards in your deck. And so if you use this on like turn 1, you're not going to see that until all your cards have been shuffled out. And so technically this really shouldn't be a problem unless this is like on your 15th card and you have to use that and then it reshuffles, then it might be kind of a problem and you run into it again. But again, just kind of like a decent seat you can slap onto pretty much anybody. Like, it really doesn't matter. Like, who do you think would want an extra 1000 HP and is going to be attacking often? Not too bad. 1000 HP probably doesn't make the difference in anything, but if they also already have like a healing skill or they have like healing regen, it might keep you alive sometime. Like if you're fighting a boss, like maybe. I think this is probably going to be the most useful one, at least for me, because this is basically just 20% quick crit damage. I mean, I just think that's pretty solid. Like, just a decent good CE you could put on literally any quick servant that you use pretty often. Like, are you going to be using Diarmuid Saber often? Slap that on him. Do you use the Edmund Dantes often? Slap it on him, right? Like, any quick servant that you use predominantly, just slap it on him. It's going to make him a little bit better. And then this is, I mean, not the most useless, because it's not like lowering their critical attack chance, it's taking the buff away from them, right? Which is really good, because we can get the stuff like this over here. They kind of like spam these buffs over here, right? But you can just like remove those buffs so that they don't have that buff chance to crit you anymore, right? It's kind of like lowering their critical attack chance, that buff that like literally every servant seems to have, the ability to just lower the enemy's critical attack chance. So it's kind of like that, but you're just removing the enemy's way to buff their own crit attack chance. It's not completely useless. You can kind of just put this on like really, I don't know, any like support type servant to just kind of give them a little bit of utility to be able to remove that. Like, it's fine. The 100 HP is kind of negligible, but I think this is definitely going to be the most useful of the bunch. So now we can move in. We get the free-to-play servant. I'll make a video on Nightingale Santa by herself, but just know that like she's really, really good as a plug suit servant, right? Like, you can use her as a DPS and you can use her to fight people, but she's really good to just dump a lot of these buffs onto somebody, because they're all just, you know, really good for the for someone that you want to like make really solid, just like really strong, and have them succeed in the challenge quest. Like, she's really good to just plug in and out. And plus, I mean, come on, bro. Like, they did good. All right, look, they made Nightingale look pretty nice. The meme is that like Nightingale's art looks really trash, and to be fair, I don't know what they were doing on stage, you know, 1 over here, but the stage 4 art, the dude that did Nightingale's art is probably like, bro, they always make fun of me for making Nightingale not look good, and he just snapped, dude, and he just made this amazing looking 4th Ascension. So Coomers are absolutely eating with this event, because not only do you get a really good servant that's free to play NP5, by the way, quick servant during the quick meta, but she's also really hot as well. So whether you're a meta person or you're a Coomer, you're winning in that, right? Okay, then you move over to the lottery. Now, you just get the generic good stuff. I mean, for lotteries like 1 through 10, who really cares? You're going to use those to ascend your Nightingale. Allure is really good. Some gold foes are always nice. You know, this is all just kind of like generic good stuff, right? But then this, right? Like, this is a really strong lotto. For those of you guys that don't know how this works, essentially, once you make it to the 11th box, this will be the pool for the lottery every single time, meaning you can get all of these resources for as many of these boxes that you can open up. And there is some really good stuff, all right, in this box. Specifically, like, I'm looking at Fangs. and pages, right? Like those are some materials that I can always just never seem to have enough of. Now, lanterns and like the little like golem pieces here, those aren't bad, especially if you're like more of a newer player and you got to level up someone like Lubu or something. Like a lot of those like early berserkers or whatever are using just need these golem pieces. So if you're leveling up like those dudes, you might need those. But it's just every servant and their mother seems to need pages and fangs, especially like all of the casters, right? Which coincidentally, the casters are the guys that you got to get to like 10 10 10 first, because those are your main supports. Like you got to get them to the full levels, right? So you can have them pop off with support, and they all need pages. So this is going to be absolutely cracked because these are good materials. I don't think getting like the cookies and gems is as good as getting the pieces and monuments, because you need the pieces and monuments to get them to level, you know, 80, 90 full ascension. You really only need these to get them to skill 4. Then you actually need real materials, which is why like this will be good to stock up on these, I guess. You can be like, I can get any servant in the game to 444, which isn't terrible. It's a good start, but it's not really as useful as being like, I never have to worry about farming saber dailies again because I have 500 saber statues, right? Like, it's not quite as good, but it is still useful, especially if you're a more new player. Farming this will be really, really good because then you can get all of your servants to at least 444. And I'm not going to ask someone that just started the game to get their, like, Hercules to 10 10 10, right? Like sit at 444, maybe get like, you know, the guts to 6 if you can, but you know, like I'm not gonna stress out about like, oh, you gotta get it to 10 10 10 immediately. Like getting the 444 will definitely improve the strength of their box. It'll just make their servants just a decent bit better, so that's good at least for them. Keep in mind that you do get a lot of QP per box, but you can also sell these big boxes over here. You will use those to get some things in the shop and whatnot, but after you clear out all those items that you can buy with, you know, these over here, you just sell them for QP. So like really, you're kind of like doubling the amount of QP you get for box if you just start selling these off, right? Which is really, really good. And then these tickets, if you go to the free quest area, there's actually like this thing over here, right? That you're gonna be using like this stuff and all these for. Like that's kind of why like I just recommend selling them, because instead of doing this to get like the pillows, which you'll probably sell for QP anyway unless you really, really need them to clear out the shop, you might as well just sell them. But like the tickets and everything else, probably more marginal, right? Like you probably don't care as much about getting the tickets, right? Like sure, fine, whatever, you know, getting these like materials up here. But this is what we care about, right? Like, this is the good stuff, right? These are the goodies, right? Especially the QP. Especially if you're someone like me and you're just in infinite QP hell. You definitely need yourself some QP. But then finally, let's move on to the kind of like latter halves of the event. Kind of the challenge quest, I guess is what you could call them. But like, the Sano Battle Royales really aren't all that hard. Like, as you can see, like, these enemies are not all that strong. And we do have event damage bonus servants, so it just makes it that much easier. Like, dude, I don't believe you even get break bars until the very end. Yeah, like the end is where you have all the break bars. But like, you could farm all of these. Like, just bring, I don't know, a friend Arjuna altar and bring your own Shakespeare and then just win. Like, I'm pretty sure that's all you need. You could be the most free-to-play person on the planet. Just started the game. Find a friend Arjuna altar. You could probably find one at NP2 with a maximum broken K-scope. Bring Shakespeare, I don't know, like your own Caesar, some Blackbeard to give him like an attack and NP damage buff, and you're cooking. Like it's really not all that hard. And I know I was saying earlier that the challenge quest is pretty free. Yeah, this challenge quest is really free, dude. Like, keep in mind, we have event damage bonus. This really isn't all that hard, right? Like, you look at the stuff they're doing, they're not really doing anything too insane. Like, Medusa will give people defense if Nightingale is beaten, so just don't beat Nightingale first. Like what they want you to do is they're like, oh, we want them to try to like make this a farming node, right? Like, oh, you're gonna try to like kill all 3 of them with an AoE or something, and then Cha-Cha's gonna have the big defense. But then Cha-Cha's a punk, dude. Look at this. Like, if you turn this into a farming node and you beat all these 3 up, you pretty much simultaneously, right? It's like, oh my goodness, not Cha-Cha with a little bit of extra defense. Hey, DW, numbnuts, you gave her defense, but she's a berserker. So, like, If she was like a ruler or a weird extra class like an alter ego, that might be a little annoying because, you know, rulers are a pretty thick class. It's gonna be like, oh man, I gotta bring an Avenger or a Berserker or something, maybe just something, right? And or if it's an alter ego, if you don't have Kama, it can be a little annoying. But dude, you're like, you know, put a little bit of defense on this servant on a Berserker. Keep in mind, people like Emiya exist as well. Like, I'm pretty sure you could 3-4 turn this with Emiya. Now, I know not everybody has Emiya, but, like, Emiya drops insane amounts of stars on his NP. So, like, you could just bomb these people, bomb them again. Cha-Cha comes in, Pierce defense, NP, 100% crit damage. Dude, even if it, like, gets longer than, like, 4 or 5 turns, if you're buffing him with like double Merlin, not only are you just not gonna die, but you're just gonna obliterate Cha-Cha. Like, I just really don't see this as all that intense. Like, I kind of just see this as a free challenge quest. Some newer players may struggle with it a little bit, but this should be something that everybody gets done. Everybody gets their free lore. Like, this is not one of those like super hard, intense challenge quests. I mean, maybe it's because I'm just spoiled because JP like occasionally every now and then is like kicking me in the nuts with some of the challenge quests. I mean, that dinosaur one a couple events ago was a little brutal, but I just don't know. Like, it's not a very hard challenge quest in my eyes. It's just not something that's going to be really all that much of a struggle. And keep in mind, even though I am like an FGO YouTube guy, like, I'm not a whale. Like, I don't have a whale box. I mean, you guys see me. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to summon for Scotty. I got 100 Saint Quartz. Oh, I got absolutely body. Like, I don't even have Scotty, bro. And I'm like, this is going to be easy. Like, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Let me Kobe that boy for 3 points. Like, easy. It's done. It's free. But on that note, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Yeah, I think it's just like a generally good event. Like, I think it brings really good things into the game. Like, the fact that it's got the lottery, that Nightingale's really good, the free-to-play CEs and event codes are all, like, well, more or less the CE, but and then, like, this event code. But this is, like, marginally useful. This is pretty useful on supports. Like, I just think it's a good, you know, event to kind of come to the game. I think it's going to be very fun for, like, the next couple of weeks on the NA version of the game. And not to mention, I mean, this is a pretty good banner, right? And like, for people that wanted to summon for Saber Astolfo, but, you know, they weren't going to summon for him because Super Orion, well, Super Orion has now come out first, and so now DW is like, hey, we rearrange things, so you hit to summon for Super Orion first. Now you can summon for Astolfo without having to worry about, you know, dipping out of your courts for, you know, Super Orion. So, like, it's just like a generally good banner, right? Like, these units are all very strong. Like, Astolfo's just a decent, strong, single-target quick saber. Ashvataman's really strong. Nightingale could probably use a buff. So could Nursery Rhyme. But, you know, you're 2 for 2 on this one. And even if Saber Astolfo, maybe you don't think he's the best, I mean, this man is a cutie patootie. Like, come on, bro. Like, you ain't gonna cap with me on this one. But with that being said, on that note, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice day. Peace, late, guys.